Saturday, get reviewed in bed, reading pictures.
I got a thing on the.
Yeah, I think that's all it is, the speakers.
See how.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our financial services meeting for Monday, October 18th. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. First, we have the approval of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Boyles. Seconded by Councillor Parker. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Next, we have the approval of the minutes from September the 20th, 2021. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Elliott. Any errors or omissions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. First, we have reports for recreation in the month of September. What was your pleasure, councillors? Moved by Councillor Palmer, seconded by Councillor Butler. Any questions or comments on the recreation report? Questions been called. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Next, we have the communications report for the month of September. Moved by Councillor Boyles. Seconded by Deputy Warden Murray. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Next, we have accounts paid for the month of September. Moved by Councillor Dewar. Seconded by Councillor Parker. Any questions? Councillor Warden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just on the internet, do we have any kind of running voting so far? So that's what's going to happen during the month.
As an overall, yes, we do. And it'll be in the report that'll go to council in 2 weeks' time, so it'll be the running total.
I've had a lot of calls these past 2 weeks, I think mostly since the CDC information came out, which wasn't very friendly to Vic County. And I have a lot of concern in my area. I know about 6 down there, possibly another 6 are going to Sterling. They have to buy their equipment up front, but it's worth it to them because I don't see District 2 in any information received. So there is a real concern with the amount of money we make with the project at the $1 million. It's scared up with a lot of people from how CDC reported it. The concern they have is the critical mass to make this project just demonstrate that it's being viable. So we need probably a discussion for next month when we get the report from Ryan, but just to let you know, I am getting a call, so I don't know if anyone else is, but it all seems to come from information that came from CDC. So there is a concern in the districts as to what's going on with this project and the amount of understanding.
Councillor Butler.
Yes, Madam Chair, my reflection is on the de-transfer accounts that's coming forward. As we can see, the amount collected so far this year is equals the full amount for last year, and we're only halfway through. What implications does this have, explain, Brian, for us as a council and our financial commitments to the project?
It doesn't change your financial commitments. Your commitments are locked in. But what it does potentially is shorten, what it does, it potentially shortens the length of time that the debt is outstanding. So with debentures, there's no early payment of debentures. So once a debenture is issued, you're locked into that term. So the hospital debentures are locked in for 15 years. The wellness center has a 10-year, the way it was financed was 10-year initial, so it has a balloon payment coming in November of 2022. So it is potentially feasible, or one of the scenarios that would be looked at is reducing the amount that's refinanced, right, and shortening that overall debt. So that's really what this is doing. It's potentially setting the units up to pay their debt off sooner once those debentures come due. I think so. There's balloon payments on the hospital at year 15. The wellness center there's balloon payment at year 10. So that's the impact of this. So right now, as of basically the county number of 805,000 is pretty much what we budget. I think the budget for this year's transfer tax was 840,000. So the municipality picked those almost made the entire budget. So it's been positive for last year. We were double. Our budget was 835 and we were at 1.7 million. And probably we'll end up somewhere in the ballpark again this year.
Okay. Councilor Barker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my question is following up on Councilor Butler's question. It's clearly going to be a surplus in that fund, probably surplus last year, and again, it'll be possibly a larger surplus this year. Does that money just sit there until the end of the dementia period, or what happens to that extra money?
So right now, the money that's sitting there does not cover the long-term obligations, right? So there's only, I think 3.6 million sitting there, but the obligations that are still outstanding exceed that, right? So until it would give enough money to pay the fund, the money just continues to accumulate.
But do we get paid any interest on that?
There is some interest paid on it. So not huge amounts of money, but it has to be, it's because it's a trust, it's held, it has to be held in certain financial instruments, so it doesn't have the ability to really invest, right? Because it is set up as a trust.
Thank you.
Councilor Palmer.
Just going back to the accounts paid. Check number 17781, so page 4 or 5. Nova Scotia Power September make ready applications. Under that make ready, does Nova Scotia Power clear couple lines and things like that? Okay, are they doing clearing for these?
Yes, they're responsible to hire the contractors.
They've been in the Thornton area doing a great job. So, that's where that comes up.
If they're clearing in Thornton, they're clearing in the wrong area for our project, so that would just be Nova Scotia Power own maintenance, yeah. Yeah,
No, they're doing a great job.
they're working on Highway 376, hopefully.
Slowly.
So,
Very slowly. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor One?
I just asked why that, McReady is not included in the money at the beginning of the beginning of the project, or just coming out of a different part, why is it,
Because it's not electronic fund.
sorry?
The ones at the beginning are electronic payments.
Okay.
That's an actual check that was written. Nova Scotia Power are still antiquated and we have to write a check.
Okay, so actually it's supposed to be 600,000.
That's the difference, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Number 5, we have District 4 Municipal Service Grants, Tony River Community Hall, the amount of $500 for a sign, and River Drummond Area Historical Society, amount of $1,800 for operating expenses. What is your pleasure, Councilor? Okay, moved by Councilor Dewar. Accepted by Councilor Elliott. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Moving on to number 6, Climate Change Advisory Committee recommendations. So we'll do a 6A first, that is policy amendments. And these were also sent out in the package for review. Over to you, Brian.
So the Climate Change Committee, one of the tasks that they created a small working group just to kind of go through our existing policies and look at them and see which policies needed a little bit of tweaking to kind of put the lens on climate change. So the ones that are for you are those policies that do that. They're fairly self-explanatory. I don't think there's anything groundbreaking in that, but it does just put the notion of climate change into the policies. So.
Any questions or comments? Councilor Thorne?
Just on the cost for the acquisition of vehicles. Are we on all the new vehicles that we buy are going to be electric?
That is something, I guess, that will be examined in, I guess, due course. One of the things from an operational standpoint, some vehicles may not be available in electronic or electric format, so so that's a consideration that has to be taken in as well. But
If we do go to tender for vehicles, and there are the electric vehicles out there, will we get a price for either or?
that could be the way they're tendered.
Oh, yeah, great, thank you.
Board Member?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that one is worded, preference. Preference would be to have an electric vehicle, but with other things considered, if, as the CEO said, if it's not feasible for what we want, or, how much is the price differential would be the other thing that's no different than ordinary people looking at buying an electric car. When it gets down to the point where it's, reasonably close, then I think it would be considered more, but I think it's the same. We still have to look at it and say, that's our preference, but do we want to pay that much more or not? As the prices come closer together, it gets close enough, we may say yes, we do, but it's not saying that we have to buy that.
Councilor Parker?
Yeah, I raised this at the Climate Change Committee. I want to raise it again here, so it's on the public records. I'm concerned about the clause saying that we will attain a net zero by the year 2030. Right, this clause wording to ensuring that procurement decision can choose the goal, necessarily has to operation by 2030. That's a very, it's a laudable goal. That's a very difficult one to achieve. That's 9 years away. Require huge changes in how we do business, our vehicles, building, so on and so forth. And I just, and I asked this question, I think it was named Donna Boyd said, well, that's an aspirational goal. And I don't dispute it is. My concern is that the more often we repeat that, it seems like the goal of this council. An actual goal. And we may find ourselves under the lash of Queen or Bonnie Prince Charlie or someone else who believes that we're not going to pass on. On paper, we committed to it. Okay, that's my concern. That's a very, laudable, it's a very difficult goal to achieve. I just want that on public record that I am concerned that that goal is too high. We are seeing the Queen and her son, actually, I was saying that governments are not acting fast. Although it may be a laudable goal, it's one that's going to take huge changes in how we do business in order to meet that goal. Thank you.
Board Parker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I'll take a bit of the opposite point of view with my brother. Yeah, that's not for I think it does say a goal, and the goal is, you can set the goal as big as you want, but it's not just the Queen and her son, it's listen to the young people of the world, when they get going on climate change, they think we're going way too slow. They're the ones that are gonna have to live in the world that's left here, for them. And so, as much as it might be a lot of difficult decisions and a lot of big changes that take place, we see all the so-called important people in the world gathering in some big center, I forget where they're gathering next, but and talking about all the goals they have and whatnot. But I guess I look at what the young people are saying, and they're saying, hurry the hell up. So I don't think we can try to be too comfortable here. We have to look at some, just like electric vehicles, or like a whole lot of other stuff, we have to look at some difficult decisions that aren't going to be easy if we're going to get there. If we take our time getting there, it might be too late by the time we do get there. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Turner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we have to view the data before we pass any real judgment on it. The data may be that it's achievable within 2 years. Data may say that it's not achievable for 15 years. So we don't know what we're looking at, right? I'm in agreement with the ward is that I think that we have to put a real emphasis on it, put a real aspirational goal, and I think that has to be done. But in order to really pass judgment on whether it's feasible or not, we have to see how we get to net zero. Get to net zero, we have to, it's like a balance sheet, right? We have to have inputs and outputs. We have to know what they are. If we know what they are, it's hard to pass judgment. But as far as setting a goal, I think it should be aspirational. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Councilor Moore.
Just wondering, do we need it? We word it so that we're going to achieve it as soon as possible instead of living, huh?
Yeah,
2030.
that date has already been established by council months ago. It's one of the first recommendations that came from the climate change advisory.
We can't change that. No, I'm just saying, maybe we could word it so, maybe you can achieve it faster. Maybe, you know, long enough, but when you put 2030 there, if you don't hit it by 2030, then people say, make a policy, you can't achieve these things. I don't know, I can't agree with Councilor Greenberg.
Councilor Boyles.
Excuse me. No, I really think that, what the warden said, and so there were a few others said that, you know, should make, it's just a goal. We're turning around, we're picking a goal, just like you can turn around and gonna do something in life or be something in life, and you put goals, yeah, you know, and you try and achieve them, and this date is, we're trying to do it sooner, great. Then we'll put on another goal, we'll do something even better. But I really think that, you know, it's a good piece of policy.
Okay, thank you. What if we just said ensuring that procurement decisions contribute to the goal of net zero municipal operations, period? And to vote. Warden Parker?
I guess I would agree with that. A goal by a certain date is the goal we try to achieve. If it's simply a goal that could be in 2080, by the time we get there, then it's not really a goal. I think we need to have a date set as impossible as it may be, or as Councilor Turner did, is maybe it's more than possible. We don't know enough of the data to know that, but I think it's a goal worth going for. Without a date to it, then I don't think it's really much of a goal.
Okay, Brian?
You still have your goal, because council has set that mission statement.
2030.
Separate, whether it needs to be operationalized in this policy, this one particular policy, because you could have it in every policy, like, so you don't necessarily need it entrenched in the procurement policy, because you still have the goal established, that council has established its climate change mission and goal to be net zero by 2030. All this is saying is that ensuring that procurement decisions contribute to the goal of net zero municipal operations. So your 2030 is still there.
Well, I think it's important to be there.
Councilor Thompson?
I don't see what the problem is with 2030. I mean, back in the 60s, they set a goal of landing the man on the moon by the end of the decade. And that was done in 1961, 9 years or 8 years before it happened. Technology's there to do this. It's not an insurmountable thing. Our example in Plymouth Community Center, we have 72 panels on our roof, and our goal was to be net zero. We're close to it right now. We've got to replace windows, add insulation here and there. Well, that building will be net zero. It's not a difficult thing. I don't see why we should be fearing all of this whole notion. I think it should stay as is.
Councilor Crawford?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I never suggested for a moment that we should change the date. I just wanted it on the record. At least some of us are concerned that date is not particularly realistic. I remember Councilor Thompson that we had several governments in the 1990s that promised to end child poverty by 2000. How'd that work out? Okay, if you throw enough money at something, as America did in space race, you can achieve great things. Okay, but I don't know we have that kind of money start tossing around to get this done everywhere in the county by 2030. And that's what I want on the record. Okay, I understand how propaganda works. You repeat something often enough, it's deemed to be true. Okay, 2030, we're going to be at net zero. A lot of the goal, I said, but a difficult one to achieve. That's all I wanted on the record. Thank you.
Councillor Boyle?
Yeah, I think that, the goal is something that should stay there. I think that, Councilor Johnston and whether, I have to agree that the goals are something that, that are set for a reason. I mean, for us to hit net zero by 2030 or before or whatever, there's gonna be a lot of changes everywhere. And by us starting off going this way and trying to get it, as there's one community hall now that goes down to say that they're almost at it, so maybe the rest of us will start looking at doing the same thing. So I think that it should stay and everybody work towards it.
Councillor Turner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the catchphrases that are thrown around this council chambers a lot is the word leadership. So if we're going to take the approach of leadership on some aspects, I think we have to take leadership on all aspects of our decision making. So I think we have to step out, take a leadership position on this, and take the same principles that we apply to some of our other decisions and apply it to this. Thank you.
All right, what is your pleasure, councillors?
No,
Is there, I'll make a motion that we adopt those,
The policy amendments?
yeah, I'll make a motion that we adopt those as presented.
Okay, we have a seconder? Seconder by Councillor Boyle. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Okay. Next we have the PACE bylaw. And PACE stands for the Property Assessed Clean Energy Program. So PACE is their acronym. Brian, to
So this bylaw came through the climate change committee as well. What the bylaw does, it enables kind of the framework for a solar program for homeowners potentially participate in. So the bylaw, basically what the bylaw does, it establishes that similar to capital charges, things like that, a municipality could develop a program to assist homeowners with solar projects that they wish to pursue. So that's in essence all this bylaw does. It creates kind of a framework. From here, we still have to kind of develop the program, what that might look like. But this is kind of the first step to enabling a program.
Warden Parker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is an excellent program, and it's been worked on around the table here by the former Energy Committee and Climate Change Committee for a couple of years now anyway, and it's taken a while to get off the ground, but talk about trying to get to net zero and stuff. Well, the problem for a lot of people, you can save money with these photovoltaic solar installations, but it takes a lot of upfront money. And not everybody can just go to the bank and say, I need 20 or 30 grand to put this system in, they're not gonna get the money. This allows them a way to finance it through basically their tax bills. They pay so much every time they pay their taxes, and that eventually pays off meantime they're making, they're saving money with it. So they know they can save money, but you just don't have the capital money, and that's the case with many things in life. But this allows for at least the solar. It doesn't get into a whole lot of other stuff that we could have, but at least for the solar program, you see a fair amount of new solar installations going up around the county now. I see them both freestanding and on the roofs of houses, trying to take part of or take advantage of the federal money that's gentleman mentioned here the other night. I think it was federal money 6%, I think it is now, it's kind of a decreasing amount. So I think it's a good program for our residents, that will allow more people, to get into a solar installation. The only question I have is on 3.3, the owner of the qualifying property will sign the solar PACE participant agreement, agreeing to either pay the full cost of the project upon completion or finance the project. The main purpose of this is to help people finance the project, couldn't do it otherwise. If you've got enough money in the bank to simply pay it, why are they listed as, why is that listed as one of the options to pay the full cost? You wouldn't be going through financing if you were had enough money to. Is there another advantage? There must be some other advantage to taking part here in this solar PACE participant agreement, other than to help finance it. That's the part I'm not understanding. Is if it's mostly a financial thing, why are we saying that you have two options: pay the full cost, or you might have, a handtake?
I think the premise behind it, and this is somewhat modeled after the Colchester, is through kind of the bulk buying aspect.
Okay, so they could get a better deal by taking part in this because it's a bulk buy. Okay, that makes sense.
That's the only rationale. I had one of the climate change committee members ask me that question a couple of weeks ago, and it's like, yeah, we're really looking at this as a financing model. That doesn't make sense. But if they're participating in the overall program and you're doing kind of the bulk buy, then that's where it would make sense, right? That's the only rationale I can.
Yeah, that's a possibility that might, as opposed to just going out and making your own negotiations and buying it. The other thing I think we need to make clear is that unlike Colchester County, who I think came up with a list and said, here's the approved installer or whatever, you have to use one of these. There's no requirement in here, Sir Brian, for to use a certain installer or a list or anything. It's just buyer beware.
There's not, but that could come through the program development. That you may say,
These are the companies that we have some trust in.
Yeah.
Because there is always a possibility somebody could get ripped off here and they can't come back in the county and say, well, it wasn't a good deal. If they didn't do a good job, we're not saying to them that we're going to guarantee anything. We're only doing finance. Thank you.
Councilor Water.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brian, could you just explain report on the solar contract submitted project administrator, or the most of it director of corporate services? Who would have those two roles? What could they review?
So we would pick at some point that when we get into the program, like we'll name a program administrator. And the director of corporate services definition should actually be changed to the deputy municipal treasurer or manager of finance.
Would the project administrator be someone within the staff now, or would it be?
It could be somebody within existing staff, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll ask you again, what's your pleasure, Councilors, if you make a motion on this this evening. Okay, we move by Councilor Boyle to go ahead with our case bylaw. Seconded by Councilor Parker. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Okay, next we'll move on to number 7, the 2021-22 nominations. We received these in our package and also correspondence from Carolyn today as well. Do you want these done separately or together, or how would you prefer for administration standpoint?
doesn't make a particle of difference to me because it's all going to council for approval in one, as one package. But if you have, if there are areas where you have to make a decision because you have multiple applicants, then I would recommend the motion. And that probably is only in the Valley Development where you have 2 applications. Unless there are any objections to the applications that have been submitted. And there is a request from Councillor Thompson for, to be replaced on the municipal audit committee, so that's choice council.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Turner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just as a point, I am no longer on the cost picker library feasibility oversight, replaced by Councilor Watt. So that has to be changed.
We'll get that updated. Okay.
Councillor Watson is there as the Carmel
Yeah.
rep.
Oh, sorry, who was I replaced by?
Thank you.
I didn't think you were replaced.
I think
There I was.
I was added to that as they wanted the word in the mayor picture book on it, not to replace anybody.
That was my, I didn't realize that it can be a replacement. I thought it was, they asked the warden to join.
Because typically, the meetings during the day, and I wasn't able to attend. So I had a conversation with Councilor Watt about this. And I was under the impression that you were going to be there as councilor, not as a member of parliament. I may have misunderstood that.
My understanding was because they're a good mayor, that's a very good meetings. And they got the board who could give, to the committee, just. I thought they were in Western Place.
We need to do something with that? Yeah.
Clearly,
We need to be clear on who's on there and why they're on there. Councillor Watt is representing Carl, then we need a council representative on there in addition to the board.
is Dan Curry representing Carl?
Dan's board representative, like I am.
Okay, so he is the second, he's the town second councillor, so he is a Carl rep, so maybe it is the one that.
Here, how many representatives from the town of Victor and Provo County, the mayor, Dan Curry, is there any other?
2, the mayor and Dan Curry. And then there are, there's the cost people there.
Yeah, there's no other representatives from the town council.
So Melvin Hauser was not representing the town, he was representing the cost. Right?
Okay, maybe it's him.
He used to be town council, but he was there representing the cost. So I guess it should be.
Okay. So we need a motion for that or anything? Go to council that way? Okay. So we'll start with in council first. So Councillor Andy Thompson has asked to be taken off the audit committee and put on the age friendly committee with Councillor Boyles. You'll speak to that, Councillor Foster?
As part of my work outside the council, I'm doing a lot of age-friendly communities policy initiatives, and there's a review that's going to happen with this committee, and I like to be on it. I was on the age-friendly committee from 2012 to 16. That committee in 2014 initiated the first age-friendly communities report. It was the first one in the province. And we're doing a review of that report now to see where we stand. I just want to get it.
So do you want a motion?
I'll move that, Council Johnson be on the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morgan, and seconded by Councilor Dewar. Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Councilor minded nay. Motion carried. Okay, so next we'll deal with our appointments from outside of council. So we have Dave Freckleton, who reapplied to the 144 construction engineering flight. And his letter is included in our package. So he's reapplied. We also have what else we have to apply here? I think that will be it. Okay, so next we have new applications. We have new application from Shelley Curtis Thompson to be on the Eastern Mainland Housing Authority. Yes, Councilor Dewar.
So should we, appoint Mr. Reckerman? And then we're going to move on to another.
So how do we want to do it? Okay,
Right.
okay, let's do that then. Okay, Councilor Boyles.
Just to point out also on your list here that they have Council White's cruise ship committee. I've been on that now.
Right, that's the chairman change as well. I remember that, yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Council Boyles. All right, so let's go back to Dave Freckleton's application and appointment. Does somebody want to make that motion?
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilor Palmer, seconded by Councilor Boyles. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Councilor minded nay. Motion carried. Okay, Eastern Mainland Housing Authority, we have an application from Shelley Curtis Thompson. Linda Chris had been, previously been on that, for, I think, 3 or 4 terms, 3 terms. She did not reapply. Question, councilors?
Shelley.
Okay, moved by Councilor Palmer, we have a seconder. Seconded by Councilor Dewar. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Councilor minded nay. Motion carried. Okay, so we have a vacancy on the Municipal Audit Committee and for outside representation, and also we have no applications for the Planning Advisory Committee. So those 2 will need to be advertised. Moving on to police, no, that one's not right there. No applications for the police advisory. We're saying? Yes.
Vacancy for audit, correct?
Yeah.
Council vacancy.
Council, yeah.
Council Thompson wants to come up with that.
Yes. Councilor Dewar.
Instead of putting an advertisement out, then could we reappoint the committee? If nobody put in for it, would we reappoint the committee that's already there?
So on the audit committee, Susan Robinson received a notice telling her her term was expired. And if she wished to reapply, here's the ad, follow the terms of the ad. She has chosen not to reapply. She didn't contact us, I'm not reapplying. She just has not submitted an application.
And all outside appointments receive emails and communications.
Anyone whose term was expiring got a direct email to them telling them that their term was expiring, and if they wish to reapply, they could. Some have chosen to, some have not.
Okay, so let's go to the municipal audit committee, then we need a councilor appointment. Is there any councilor that would like to put their name forward to be on the audit committee? Or make a nomination? Councilor Parker.
That's certainly something I have an interest in,
Okay.
seeing that our folks are good order, they usually are. Karen. So I would volunteer, it's acceptable to my peers.
Yeah, any other nominations? Okay, the moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded nay. Motion carried. Okay, so next we're moving on to Riverton Guest Home Corporation. So we received 2 applications, one from Bonnie Allen and the other from Laura Trout. Both of those applications have been received. Councilor Boyles.
Yeah, I know, it's a trial and he's a good, community-minded person that's, a businesswoman, been in sales a long time, belonged to different organizations, I belong to myself, I just think that, you know, Mrs. Allen's been there for 20 years or something, and I thought it was something that you could only do 2 terms or something like that. You can't be there that long, so I just think that, it's a good time for a change, and I'd like to, move for Mrs. Stroud to, on the board.
Anyone else like to? Yes, we have a motion for that. Councilor Elliott?
Is there a time limit to be on the committee?
Depending on the outside board, they all have their own terms of reference for the board membership. I'm not aware that Valley View's incorporation documents requires the appointment of 3 elected officials and 2 non-elected officials. I'm not aware that the non-elected officials are prevented from serving more than 1 term. It is a 2-year term, and you'll notice that it alternates with the other term so that they're not both expiring at the same time. But I'm not aware, unless some of the elected members on the board are aware, I'm not aware that there is a limit as to how many terms can be served. Unlike, say, something like the Housing Authority, which does have a requirement that you cannot serve more than 2 consecutive terms. So I would defer that comment to the board members, as I'm not aware of what the bylaws say.
Thank you, Joan. Councilor Elliott.
So having said that, I'm gonna have to disagree with Mr. Boyles, because I've known Bonnie Allen since I've been a little girl, and she's in my district. She's a great community leader, she's a 4-H leader, she's an all-around person. And my thoughts on that is you don't fix what's not broke. And if she's on there and she's doing a good job and she's willing to reapply, I think she should be reinstated if that's her wish. Thanks.
So Brian just provided me here with some information. It says that the service to the municipality should not exceed a total of 4 years or 2 terms. However, if the municipality believes that their service to the board is greater, that can be extended. And there's no time limit on that. The continuity of your work being conducted there. It's important for that to be there.
So does that state it's someone who's sitting on the board that's a councillor from the municipality, or is that any member within the municipality on the committee?
Citizen press.
So how long has Bonnie Allen been on that committee?
She says in her letter 20 years.
So having said that, there can't be a limit because she wouldn't be there. So I support it 100%. Thanks.
Okay, the 4 years for the continuity of their work, that their presence there. You know, we all have people on our committees. I think I don't speak for myself that what they do for that committee, you know, sometimes outweigh the term, but each committee is different. Councilor Wills?
Yeah, in answer to Councilor Elliott's remarks there, I was on the board for 4 years. I was taken off last time because I wasn't going the way that they thought it should go. It wasn't going that Bonnie Allen and some of the other members that are right here tonight decided that a woman should only be allowed to pee, an older lady was only allowed to pee at certain times. There was money missing, a whole lot of money went missing in Valley View Villa. And they left the same board there to turn around and oversee. there's so many things like, nurses being, shouting at patients when I was there, and I turned and said, hey, that's automatic dismissal, that's, you don't know. So, Bonnie might be good in her things and not saying she isn't, but I'm just saying that I think it's time for a change. I think that, people get there too long. We want people to get on these boards. We can't leave people on there for 20 and 30 and 40 years. We might as well just say the heck with it and get on and say if you want to get off.
Board Parker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a difficult one because you're weighing a lot of experience, and lady that's been doing it, as Alan is going to continue doing it with that experience, versus, new blood. And I guess what I find a little bit lacking is like, in some of the applications, I guess I'll refer particularly to the preferences for the 144, there's a lot of information there. So here's what I've got to offer. Not that we didn't know in a way, but Dave would offer, but what I find missing in this trial is very little other than I live with my husband in church. I don't see what's there, and and then maybe it should have been more there. I just find I would be going out on a limb, so I would say, I hope this is a nice person or a capable person, I guess. So it is a difficult one when you're waiting how long Mrs. Allen's in there. I guess I don't want to bang on the spot here, but the people here on this council that serve with Mrs. Allen on that board, I would like to hear from them as to how valuable she is. There's not. I know Councilor Boyle's had some problems with her, and that's fine, and it's fair game to express that and everything. But how much difference would it make if she wasn't there, not knowing how well this may be a very deep person for all I know, but we don't know that from what's been written there. So I don't know if anybody from that, any of the council representatives want to speak on that as to what effect that might have on the board. We need change, but on the other hand, there's too much difference.
Thanks, Councilor Butler.
Madam Chair, I'd like to say that I've been on the board for 5 years. We've come through some difficult times. And however, I think that as we look back, Bonnie has provided some very valuable leadership. And as we heard at a recent meeting, financially, we are improving and we're now in the black. So I think that she has steered the ship at a difficult time, and I think that she has more to offer, and I would certainly be supporting her nomination.
Councilor York.
Being the counselor for the area, you're automatically on it. Bill and I've been on it for as many years as I've been a counselor. But I'm just a little disappointed about the way it was said about all the money that was missing. It was the board that checked into the money missing, hired extra people, got to the bottom of it, and again, we got the bills back. And it's like here, okay, we agree here with everything because stuff's coming to us from management, and rubber stamp or just goes through, and that's always the way everything always was right. But then when they start to go wrong, we started to notice things weren't just right, and then we got more involved in the audits and hired other people to do it. And by doing that, we found the problem, we seen what was going on. We had a company that always did the audit. We had to dig deeper than that audit to find out what really took place. And Juan was like the rest of us, and Councilor Boyles included, went to a lot of meetings to steer the ship back right, and it's not sinking right now. So, and with all the goings on and the way things were handled the last year and a half, I have to support Bonnie, because Bonnie did a good job with the guidance of management and the rest of the team. Thank you.
Councilor Turner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can't speak to past sins. I've only been on the board for the last year, so the only thing that I can talk about is what I've witnessed for the last year. And in terms of how the administration and the board work together, I think it's a great relationship. And I think that Bonnie's doing a good job with the new administration. And as Councilor Butler has spoken to earlier, I mean, that ship has been turned around and moving in the right direction. So I can't, as I said, I can't speak to what the sins were in the past, but from what I've witnessed so far, the board and the administration have that organization moving in the right direction.
Hold on a second. So Councilor Boyles, you have made a motion. And you needed a seconder. No, that was not seconded. Is there a seconder for your motion? Is there a seconder for the motion?
Don't surprise me this now. But I do have a question, but
Okay.
maybe people don't realize, but when I was put on the board up there and everything, I turned around and I went on, and the money had been taken and missed, and then there was a big investigation. I was late getting on because of this council, or not this council, but the council at that time had voted for me to have to fight for my seat. But anyway, I was the one that pushed it and had the charges and stuff done because they were just sitting there, nothing was being done. Also, I wanted to ask Brian about this. I'm going to check this tomorrow and on municipal affairs and find out if that's true, that person can stay on 20 and 30 years and all this, and it's not against the laws of municipal affairs. I will be checking tomorrow because I think there's something that's wrong here. I really do. And really, I'm going to be making and later on that we have an investigation. I think there should be an investigation about it.
It's your policy, it's council's policy that determines terms of office outside, and it says clearly in your policy that appointments may be extended by the municipal council if the council feels that the replacement of the citizen member or appointment would compromise progress or continuity of work being conducted. That's a council decision.
Councilor Elliott?
Thanks. Peter, I feel your frustration, and being on the committees, it's very hard not to be personally involved when something's you're passionate about it. But I also believe that Bonnie Allen is on the committee, and I don't believe that Bonnie Allen done anything wrong. That's my understanding. And the fact that she wasn't one of the people that created one of the issues that you just spoke about, I think she deserves that respect too when being on the committee. Thank you.
I answered that.
Quickly, yes.
Yeah, the way it is that, as I spoke earlier there, about the lady now, she's in her 90s, not allowed to pee, turn around at a certain time when she's allowed to pee. None of them turn around and then they turn around like I said, we gotta do something with this. They called a meeting. Then they turned around the night of the meeting, they called and told me, no, we're canceling the meeting. So I went anyway, they were all there, just didn't want me there. Finally, Chester did stick up that night and back it up and said, hey, you should do something here. We did it, we got things going right. Me, it's things that went on that you just don't see. And that's why I really do think that I will be looking for an investigation, even if I have to turn around and go to the municipal myself, affairs myself, it has to be done.
Councilor Elliott?
By replacing one member of that committee, I don't think it's going to make a lot of difference unless you have a personal issue with that one person.
You're right, it should, and it's not the one person, it's right.
but you shouldn't be taking it personally. You're on the committee to represent that people.
Okay. Stay here, let's focus, and we're here to focus on nominating a person tonight, okay? So, is there a motion, and who would like to make a motion? Councilor Butler,
I'd like to nominate Bonnie Allen for this position.
is there a seconder for that? Seconded by Councilor Dewar. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded, nay.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carried. Yes.
I'm just a little concerned with this. I'm just wondering if we shouldn't have cameras on this. This is kind of personal stuff that's being said. And I'm just kind of not very happy with the way council conducted themselves on this whole issue. It is concerning. But this, it doesn't matter who went in the end, it's like the board, I don't think it's fair to publicly say things that may not be true. And I'm just a little concerned about how this whole conversation went.
Yes, Councilor Wyden, I understand your feelings on that. I just like to remind everybody that, you know, we have to stay focused on the task at hand, and, you know, I think there's a time and a place for discussions, and I think, you know, moving forward, tonight, hopefully, and in the future, we can keep that focus. I believe that's all of our nominations, that's correct?
I think so. Just to be clear, though, was what's going to council in November. Councillor Thompson is joining Councillor Boyles on age friendly. Mr. Freckleton is being reappointed to 144. We're correcting the cruise ship nomination to reflect Councillor Boyles, not Councillor Bottom. The warden is correcting Larry Turner to the warden on the cost feasibility. Recommending Shelley Curtis Thompson to, and that's a recommendation only to the Minister of Housing. That determination will be made in Halifax. But we will recommend Shelley Curtis Thompson, the Eastern Mainland Housing Authority Board. We will re-advertise one non-elected position on audit, one non-elected position on planning advisory, one non-elected position on police advisory, and the reappointment of Bonnie Allen on her guest home. And Councillor Elliott reminded me this evening that her nomination to the Ship Hector Restoration Project was not on this list, so we will add that.
Included in that as well.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, that takes care of our 22 nominations.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Yes, Deputy Warden Murray.
Councilor Dave.
Yeah, the correction on the elected official on the audit committee.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Okay, so next we're going to move on to number 8, approval of vaccination policy. So I'll hand this over to Brian.
Policy, everybody, it was in the package. So the general gist of it is that council members and citizen appointments to committees shall be required to provide a proof of vaccination to the administration. And that's really what it is. There is section 4.11, the duty to accommodate based on human rights requirements, but that is to, if there is a case of where you have to accommodate that there would be a process developed between the municipality and the individual to find a solution around the So that could be asking, could be testing, could be.
Broad to fit what we needed to do,
Yeah.
kind of future-proof it a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, any questions or comments? Gordon Parker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just so we're clear, us as counselors to sit around this table or committee members from the public with are required to be vaccinated, but staff are not, is that right?
At this point, staff are not covered by this policy.
Sitting around this table, all the counselors or committee members are required, and staff are not. Is that because of contract or, well, of course, a lot of their, not everybody union, but is that final, or is that still being considered?
That would still be considered, so that's a future discussion.
It seems a little odd that you got people sitting around the table with some being required to be vaccinated, not.
It's odd that you could have 50 people in that back row, but you can't impose that requirement.
That leads to my next question, which is 4.5, 4.6. Members of the public accessing any essential program services and facilities are required to wear a mask and public distance. 4.6 says members of the public accessing any non-essential program services or facilities in the municipality shall be required to be fully vaccinated. So what are our non-essential services?
So a non-essential could be a recreation program, it could be any program that we put on, so.
Come in to pay the taxes, they're very essential.
That is declared
They don't have
essential.
to be,
Partaking in a meeting like this is deemed to be essential. We can argue back, going back and forth, but that's the way the order is written.
just as what I was looking for was the examples of the non-essential.
Yeah, so a
programs.
non-essential would be a recreation program,
So if somebody comes in and borrow equipment from the room down below, they will require, in order to come into this building anyway, they'll require.
it could require.
I think it's gonna need a very clear definition of what's essential and non-essential in order to know when you have to. It seems to me it's gonna be hard to administer. You know, if you're downstairs here at the door, you're gonna assume, I guess, that everybody's essential is coming in.
I guess too, that they have to go to the front desk and then inquire what services they're
So we
providing.
would have a very good list there at front desk of what's non-essential. In order to know whether they have to be vaccinated. I found that part a bit confusing when I came to it, that we actually had non-essential services. I didn't know what the difference was, but as long as the people that are administering it have a very clear definition of what is or isn't a non-essential service, then I think it's doable, but otherwise it might be kind of hard to. Those are the two concerns I had when sitting around this table, is group some being vaccinated, some not. And the other, that difference in definitions between essential and non-essential. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Parker?
If I was a labor lawyer, or an employment lawyer, I'd probably my hands in glee right now. There's not a doubt in my mind that there will be significant challenges, not necessarily to our policy, but to other policies as well. Plus, we're in a very murky area. And I'm certainly pleased that it says it's temporary. At some point, we will be able to solve this policy. I don't know if there's any way to write it, make it so that haven't somehow offended someone's sensibilities. And if they wish to be contrarian enough, then they will hire a lawyer. But at the same time, I think we have a responsibility to protect our staff, protect people who come in and out of this building, protect people we offer services to. I believe it is a reasonable attempt. We'll have to do it and when it gets in the hands of some sharp lawyers, only time will tell. Hopefully we don't have to go there. Hopefully in a few months, this pandemic will be declared over. In the meantime, I expect some choppy waters. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Deputy Warden Murray?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In 4-1, just wondering,
something should be put in there for exemption, is I did in the category. And, for fully vaccinated or exemption.
Medically exempt. That what it is.
I can't see any other place that it says that exemption is exempt, and maybe it is.
With wording in there, I think the interpretation, members of council shall provide proof of vaccination. I guess it's open to interpretation as to what that means, right? Like, in your case, you provide proof of vaccination, that's basically saying I'm not vaccinated, right? So, but we can work language in there, to that effect, that I guess what I would interpret it would be.
Yeah, I can see your point,
And
Jim.
providing the status, you are providing your status, but we can work with language in that, makes it clear.
Okay, just so there's no gray area there, okay? Anyone else, comments, questions? Okay, so, the pleasure, Councilor, what would you, the motion? Okay, moved by Councilor Watson, second by Councilor Thompson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Okay, next we have community announcements. I heard your chatter was a big success out there, Councilor Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we had a chatter on, chatter sale, takeout only, on Saturday. It went very well. Excellent chatter maker, even though he was in last. Yeah, it was a great success. A lot of community support. Thank you.
Any events? I guess we have referrals to committee and council and notice of motion. Referrals? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for a motion for adjournment. Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion carried. Adjourned.
On the proper service. I'd like to call the proper service committee meeting to order. First, I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in the Mi'kmaq ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Okay, next is the approval of the agenda. Move.
Seconded.
By Councilor Thompson, and second by Councilor McKeel. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Comment nay, motion carried. Next is approval of the minutes of September 20th, 2021. By Deputy Warden. Great. Second by Councilor Ward. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Comment nay, motion carried. Next up is the reports. First one is the building inspector's report.
So moved. Second.
Questions? Good. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Comment nay, motion carried. Next is bylaw enforcement officer, dog patrol. Dog patrol. Report.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Key. Councilor Ward. Councilor Ward.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Dell is on the line, if you could just give me an update for 1613.
But, And here's Logan. Council one had a question about 16 Birch Lane. Just wondering if you had any update on it.
Yeah, so sorry, I saw that you were making some sort of a comment, Debbie, but Councillor Wadden, but I couldn't quite hear you. Birch Lane, we do have an update. The property is beyond the date of the original requirement for cleanup. The reason why we haven't progressed further is because we understand that the owner is in very poor health, and for compassionate reasons, we've been holding off from pushing it farther. But I would, I guess, put it out to council to see if there's any further action that you require immediately. We understand that the owner, the gentleman, is likely to pass away fairly soon. So that's been the only hesitation on moving forward with any further action or proposing, I guess, to complete a cleanup by the municipality. So I guess I would put that out to council to see how you would like us to proceed.
Is this information gone out to the persons who put the complaint in?
The information does go out to the owner. It's the owner themselves who have had the correspondence previously, and it's the owner themselves who is in poor health, and we believe, based on our correspondence, I guess to be sort of near end of life. So that is the reason for our delay.
So you'll be able to contact the person that did the complaint and to let her know where it stands.
Did you hear that, Logan?
Yes. Yes. So, sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I guess Logan, Council Watson was just wondering if she can contact the person that made the complaint and just let them know where it sits. Would that be all right?
That would be fine with, yes, I think that would be fine with myself at least, and I'd be happy to talk to you more about it as well, Councillor Wadden, to give any information that I can.
Thank you, appreciate
Great,
that.
thank you, Logan. Okay.
Think that, I can't remember the last time I meeting.
Okay, it was moved and seconded.
Yes.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Count nay, motion carried. Next is the warden's report. With Councilor Dorr,
I'll second it.
second by Councilor Keel. Questions on the top of the board? None? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Count by nay, motion carried. Next on the agenda is affordable housing. Warden Carter, item 2134.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This was moved ahead in our last meeting because we hadn't had a meeting, so that's what the meeting is tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock. There was a lot of hold up, and this was seen as very urgent when it was brought up in July for the provincial election. But it's like a lot of things, once elections are over, they're not quite as urgent. But it is still very urgent for a lot of people that are wondering where their housing is going to be for this winter. So I'm hopeful that tomorrow we come up with some answers. One thing that we have done as a municipality here, we were asked by the organizers of the meeting to each municipality to submit a list of any buildings or land that we had that might be usable for housing in this county. Of course, don't right at the present time have any buildings, that are already, in progressed, perhaps toward housing. I don't want to say too much on that one because it's still, being negotiated, but, we do, have several properties of land, of course, that, result of tax sale or others, and, so, our GAO has forwarded that list, to the organizers, so we'll have some discussion tomorrow, I guess, around, if any of those properties, or in the case of the, 5 towns, they, may very well have some, buildings, that are suitable for housing. So those discussions are going to take place tomorrow, and, the next day, on Wednesday, the provincial government is, releasing, their new housing policy, so there was some mention by one of the mayors that perhaps we could, get an early warning of what's coming, so that we'd be better able to, make decisions tomorrow, but I don't know if that's going to happen or not. So unfortunately, we're not a whole lot further ahead than we were at the last meeting without having, enough information. But we do know that the housing is a problem here and not just in the city. Sometimes you watch TV enough, you will assume that housing is only a problem, in Halifax, Dartmouth, or HRM. But, I've heard comments from quite a few people, not only, within the urban areas, but also in the rural areas of, people just not being able to afford to rent anymore in many cases because houses are selling for so much more than they were before, almost 50% higher in some cases. That whether if you're a landlord or whatever, then you have to get more for that property because you paid more for it. But in many cases, the rent is going up to the point where a lot of people can't afford it in this county as well as in the city. I'm on the board of Iola's Place, and I know they've got a heavy load of people wanting in there, and they can only take 4 at a time now because of COVID. So there are some major issues in this county as well as in the city to deal with in terms of housing. So hopefully I'll have more to report at the next meeting, Mr. Chair, than I have tonight.
That is something you can put on a future agenda,
Yeah, we'll
once you get to.
add it to the next agenda. I might as well add it to the next agenda now because we are going to have a meeting tomorrow and the provincial policy come. We should have something to report.
So we'll add to the next meeting. Council what?
Probably told me before, I apologize, who's on the committee for the housing, something there's important?
Yeah, it's, well, there's quite a few people sitting around the table, but certainly the mayor and myself. The MLA's offices are represented, and I believe there's some, there's other people there from the, and you might be able to, what's one, I think the county about.
No, she's on the County Housing Coalition.
Yeah.
They presented to the mayors and board maybe last month, I believe. They developed, they did a study on the affordable housing issue report. I did a copy of it.
I don't know, we find it in video, because one of the problems I heard is that we don't have the data in this area. A lot of rural Nova Scotia doesn't have the proper data as to what housing situation really is. That is concerned. So if she's some information, we have.
Just, they hired a summer student, and she did a lot of research on this issue, and it's specific to Victor County. So we might look out there.
Councilor Jay Carter.
Yeah, a very, very complex issue, and I recall that the professor from True Line, I asked him to define affordable housing, and he couldn't either. So I said, well, whatever the government defines that. It's a very complex issue. And you get down to the lower, and we'll call it the homelessness part of it. So that's not just an affordability issue, there's several other factors wrapped up in that. Health, addiction, and so on. And there's, you can't just wave a wand and find a solution. There's absolutely no doubt that as property values escalate, rents will fall. Whether they follow now not supposed to because of the rent control restriction, but there are several ways around that, or people that are simply ignoring it. But they will fall, and that puts more people at risk. But at the same time, landlords cannot be expected to run a charity. I will say that I believe there's significant data available from Canada Mortgage and Housing for this market. Okay, what the average rents are for 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, bachelor unit, and so on for this market. Okay. They collect data regularly. They have reasonably up-to-date data on. And they also collect data on the turnover rate. That is very, very, very low. It's, in other words, it's very few people moving because, well, they're afraid they don't want to have that complex issue. Been around since almost time immemorial. It's not gonna, the sudden change in policy in Halifax on paper might look good, but it's not immediately going to do a lot. But here we are in the second half of October, facing some people are facing a pretty good winter. If I have the tank car from April to now, pretty soon that's going to be an additive. It'd be nice if we could get more by all those places, or more spaces in those places for the most desperate. Thank you.
Okay, Warden Carter?
Well, this seems like, a pretty downer subject, coming into winter, those mornings you go and not have enough housing for people. What do? You just can't solve this overnight. You're not suddenly going to even turn a bunch of empty buildings or empty land that people have into housing overnight for people neither. It's I think the provincial government's coming up with a short-term, medium-term, long-term solution. But one brighter light, I think, in this that I noticed a couple of sessions we've had is there is some large corporations stepping out and saying we can be part of the solution. Now they're obviously going to want some government subsidization and whatnot to do this, but I don't think I'm really cats out of the bag with the Dora Construction, who is owned locally here in the county, and it's the ones that are building the walls or whatever it is down in Trenton at the old fireworks site, are actively involved in these meetings. This gentleman that heads that up, he wants to be part of the solution. He has some people helping him. So if we can get some of those larger contractors, because the idea is to build bigger, fancier places, you get, that high rent out of it, that's where you make your money. There's not a lot of money to be made at affordable housing, and the government has to play part of that role. I think it is promising to see this one, and I've heard of a couple others, large building corporations want to play their role. Usually, you can always say, well, money must be an incentive here somewhere, and maybe it is, but some people just have a social conscience too, I think, to try and help out with this problem. So let's hope that's the case. And I just want to point that out as sort of maybe a positive thing out of all the negatives that can be said around this subject. Thank you.
Okay. Further? Next on the agenda is emergency resolutions. Emergency resolutions. None? Any referrals to council committees and notice of motion? Councilor Gold.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wondered if the all rate is only 8:30, we could go in camera for a minute or two and just find out about our legal situation and about the respect to property, just for something that would be the right way to do it. But that's up to you fellas out there. Instead of bringing it up and hashing it out over it.
It's not going to report right away. So maybe I'll give you a meeting. Once something comes forth, then we'll have that session.
Sure.
Board department.
just to wind up here, I mentioned the council Turner just before the meeting, I want to bring it up here, before everybody. As we're getting very close to the opening of the roundabout in Abercrombie, which will be, big, news story for this county for sure, and, I'm sure we're gonna save some lives. I think it would be appropriate, if, depending on how many we're allowed in the room, whatnot now, if we invited, some of the Abercrombie Fire Department, either the executive or the firefighters, whatever, to our next, council meeting, for the part that they play in making that happen. Get various groups, including ourselves, our MLAs and others, all play a role in pushing it along. But I mean, if it was the fire department, I think it really got things rolling and allowed it to happen. So I don't know what the rest of you think of that suggestion, but it's thought it might be nice to have them here with us both the time that that's open. Do you agree?
Great.
Thank you. Councilor Butler.
Mr. Chair, as we talk about affordable housing, invariably when you hear it on the news, they talk about the fact that people have to make choices on whether they're going to pay the rent or they're going to put food on the table. I think the two are certainly very much connected. And as we look at the affordable housing issue, I think we should also have information from the food banks in this county as to we're heading into the period when perhaps the greatest need is coming forward, that we should also have an appreciation of what challenges are being placed on the table from a food perspective as well.
All right, Councilor Bullock.
I just wonder if we could get, it's brought to my attention and people asked me to check on it, so I said I would tonight. There's a lot of services, I guess, being provided by the municipality county of Pecto to other towns and that we don't get paid for. I mean, counties in the thousands of dollars. So I'd like to turn around and have a staff or whatever, give us a lowdown on how much money we're putting out into other towns. We're telling our own people, we can't do this for you, we can't do that for you, but we're putting money out to these other towns. So I really like to put on in something like that.
I think we have to know what we're,
Service.
yeah, what the context is of what we're supplying to other towns.
Well, okay, then let's just, we'll turn around and we'll take the dog catcher and the services from our service department, of our stores and whatever the heck you call them, and our building inspection and fire, and anything that we're putting out. It's very simple question is, are we putting money, our services out to other municipality or towns and not getting anything in return?
I don't think so. We have a contract to provide dog control to the town of Pecto. It's billed on an hourly basis. I think it's hourly.
Well, that's all I went back. It says something that says no, because I've been told different. Now, if this code's going to be this different, we're
Not providing building inspection to any town.
The short answer is no.
No, okay, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At a future meeting, I'd like to talk about the roadside litter. It's terrible here in Picture County, and I think that maybe we should come up with some kind of program or something on the litter that we could set free maybe in the spring or something. But it's awful around here, so I think we should have a talk about it sometime in the future.
But I agree, Deputy, Michael will let me stop picking up the garbage bag there the other day, right on the side of the road, someone's just dropped it right there. It's hard to believe. I don't understand people, but yeah, we'll put that on a future meeting. Councilor Keel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just a second, just to kind of springboard off what Deputy Warden Murray said there. there's a lot of roadsides in our county where they're non-residential, like exits off and on ramps that are just absolutely disgusting as well. And like we said before, for people not tying down their refuge on the way to the landfill, there's a lot in that area as well. The discussion that I would like to have is around our street signs, because we had an update there that if there was areas that we would like to put forth that fall into that category, that we could have those, have that discussion. Okay, thank you.
And we're not supposed to debate these are things we're gonna discuss in the future, but when I go to these divert Nova Scotia meetings, the big emphasis right now is on littering and anti-littering and stuff. They've done a survey, and I can get the results for everybody, what the survey was and what they found, you know, the percentages of this, that, and the other thing. And I've asked them if that applies to the rural as well as the urban, and they claim it does for the most part. Now they're doing behavioral studies to try and find out what makes people litter. But there's a big concern right across the province is, you know, that I think the Virgin Nova Scotia eventually is going to come up with, and perhaps it'll work with what we come up with, or we can use that as a basis. But there is, I go to those meetings, that is the main discussion is littering. They put a lot of money into doing these, having these studies done and stuff, and hopefully there's something there that we can pick out of to help us with. I fully agree with what the deputy warden says, it's just that knowing that it's being dealt with across the province, hopefully there's some solution to it.
Any information you can get from the Nova Scotia, we can pass on to staff so that we have it for.
Yeah. I'll make sure we get that out, because I know they did come out on the study that they did the first one, which was the survey to see what makes up the litter.
Anything further? If not, I'll just put one up there. We'll call for a motion for adjournment. Hope everybody's still home praying for my Red Sox.
We're the only one left of this,
Yeah, so go home, pray, watch the game. Motion for adjournment. Moved by Councilor McKeel, second by who? Deputy Warden.